Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stage Debate with Cossack Isaac. I'm your host, Isaac Weinberger. We have two fabulous guests on today, two great friends of mine, Ravi Desai of Opal Hotels Group and Bhavesh Lad from Spark Hotels, Spark GHC. Both of these guys have done some fabulous work and continue to make tremendous strides in the hotel space. They and their teams are well known, and I'm proud to work with them. I'm proud to call them friends. And today they'll fill you in on some trade secrets, inside secrets of the hotel world. Very, very excited. Thank you to our corporate sponsor, Michael Stern of Line Star Tax and LSD Consultants, tax geniuses. He's been behind us from day one, and they've serviced many of my clients. And definitely, guys, you should reach out to. Reach out to me, and I can make the connect. And our series sponsor, Himesh Jaran from Amri Tech Distribution, really just providing top of the line LG TVs to hotels, works with some of the biggest guys in the space. Honesty and integrity is really his mantra. He's done tremendous work, competitive rates. And again, reach out to me. I can make the connect. Or if you've heard of Himesh, reach out to him. You will not be disappointed. Tune in, guys, and enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stage Debate with Cossack Isaac. It's an honor to have some great friends on today, Ravi Desai from Opal Hotels Group and Bhavesh Lad from Spark GHC, all the way from Cleveland, Ravi from Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a pleasure to work with you guys, and we've trudged this road in recent years and chilled by events and had a great time, and appreciate you guys, appreciate what you guys do on a daily basis. You guys are rapidly building up your portfolio and really doing some nice things. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for coming on. Ravi, please give us a little bit of a background about Ravi Desai, your partners, and Opal Hotels Group.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us, Isaac. Appreciate the friendship and appreciate all the work you do for us too. But yeah, Ravi Desai, CEO, founder of Opal Hotels Group. We started back in 2014 with one asset that we acquired. I'm a former attorney, former investment banker, and left both those worlds to come back into entrepreneurship. Just grew up in the hotel industry, and there's nothing like it. The freedom, the flexibility, the ability to make deals is what excites me. I've been doing this for 10 plus years now. We've got 10 active hotels closing on an asset in 2 weeks, and hopefully be at like 13 by the end of the year. We play mostly in the select limited service extended stay market, primarily on the East Coast, heavy focus on the Southeast. My partner is Mithil Patel. He runs our operations side, and I mostly do more of the acquisitions and development.
Got it. And we have Bhavesh Lad from Spark GHC. Bhavesh, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and your partners. I love what you guys do and continue to do.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac, and thanks for having us on the show. Definitely, like Ravi, echo sentiments about the partnership and friendship at the different conferences and events, and the work that you've done around cost segregation studies for us as well. I grew up in the UK and after I immigrated, spent a significant amount of time on the West Coast. Spark Hotels was really started, I'd say, by Amit Patel and his family, and who've been doing hospitality since the 80s. It was really not formalized until 2015 when I moved to Cleveland, specifically to get into hospitality. I always had a passion for real estate, and so when I was on the West Coast, I'd done both single-family homes and multifamily. But my dad always had this desire to get into hotel business, and and both of his brothers got into that business. And so I always had that passion to get into hospitality. And so I had that opportunity in 2014, 2015 when we started Spark Hotels, and we built a Town Place Suites from ground up, which was our first asset that was new to me. And then we purchased a Holiday Inn that was from the 1970s and did a full renovation on that asset. So Spark Hotels is really Amit, myself, and his dad. And through this journey back in 2020, I met Greenhouse Capital, which is Sagar, Bhavin, and Mike, who had a private equity platform that they built out for multifamily. We decided that we are both very like-minded and wanted to build out hospitality. And so we created a joint venture, which is known as Spark GHC. as part of that, and since that joint venture, we have done or now have approximately $500 million worth of assets under management and are fast on the track to becoming, I think, $1 billion company from assets under management.
Beautiful. And yes, I love what you guys do. And you guys market yourselves very, very well. A lot of LinkedIn game, a lot of marketing. And I think in today's day and age, that's extremely important. Obviously, from an LP standpoint, for people to really recognize you, but also like from an internal standpoint, it requires a certain level of expertise once you're putting yourself out there. You're not just some mom and pop. So incredible stuff. Let's dive in a little bit. Let's talk about the early days, and then we're going to get into maybe a little bit of just day to day, but just the early beginnings, some hurdles. Ravi, we'll start with you. Obviously, everybody starts somewhere. Nobody has an easy journey. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it that nobody sees, right? You only start getting recognized when you start making moves and closing stuff. Then the brokers recognize you, the partners recognize you. So fill us in a little bit about Opal's humble beginnings.
It was 2014. My first asset was here in North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte, but I had just quit my law firm job. So I still lived in DC, and I would commute back and forth to North Carolina every other week if it required it, definitely once every 3 weeks. So I was kind of managing from afar, but I would come down here, spend a week at a time, get everything in order, and then go back home. But so, yeah, it was a lot of hours on the road, a lot of time with the GM and people on site at the hotel. I don't get to do as much anymore, but spend a good amount of time just learning from everybody that was literally at the property, right? I grew up in the industry, but hadn't really put my arms around it in probably a good 6-8 years between college, law school, and so forth. So coming back, I learned a ton from the staff that we already had, and really just kind of fine tuning, hey, what should our SOPs be? What should our standards be? And working on that. So a lot of hours on the road, definitely, and scouting out new properties, because the goal wasn't to just be satisfied with one, right? It was like, how can I scale this business and how can I continue to be active in it? So when I wasn't on site working at the property or helping a property, I was always looking for new places, and I quickly bought a hotel a year for the first 5 years. And for the first 3 of those, I was living in DC while the first 3 assets were in North Carolina. So then finally, my wife she was like, if you want to have more kids, then we need to go down to North Carolina so you're not gone as much. So we made the move to Raleigh. We love Raleigh, but again, our job requires us to be on the road. We look for assets. We look for deals. We don't look for things that are just easy in our backyard. So we have no assets in Raleigh. We want to go where the deal is. So that still requires me to travel a fair bit, but gradually was able to build a team around ourselves, and it makes that part of the business a little bit easier.
Wow. And one thing I'll give you a lot of credit, but there's a lot of guys out there that focus on the number. I have 20 assets, I have 30, I have 40, I have 50, and just something that people probably don't give you recognition for. A lot of your hotels that you've purchased, at least recently, sometimes they're in the 12 to $20 million range. And you could have guys out there that buy $7-8 million hotels and are automatically able to transact more because they have more capital to buy. They're not buying as big of assets. So you're really taking down the deal that makes sense for you, no matter the size. And it's not just about the number. It's much cooler to be able to walk into a conference and get recognition from brokers, whoever it may be. I have 30 assets versus 11 assets. So I know deals that I've done with you, nice assets, beautiful assets. Obviously, you're not going to, you'll buy a nice deal at 7 million as well, but these are nice assets that could easily equal out to a few different hotels in one shot. So again, very, very impressive. And Bhavesh, just some humble beginnings with Spark, maybe some hurdles before you guys became famous.
Yeah, so when I relocated to really formalize what is Spark Hotels, and Spark Hotels, just for background, is a management company, right? And the legacy Spark Hotel side, it's family. It's 9 to 12 people, a couple of assets. And that's why we were always traditionally kind of slow growth. And so when I relocated to Cleveland, I was still working full time. Still worked, my background's in media entertainment and technology. So I spent a lot of time basically doing double duty, right? Was on the road traveling quite a bit, but then also I had an office at our Town Place Suites where I spent time with the GMs, right? And the operations team, while Amit would be focused on finding us the next deal, right? And so we did it all. When we built the Town Place Suite, we had no elevators at the time, and so we ran all the FF&E up the stairs ourselves to get ourselves open. We hired all the sales staff, the GM. We paid all the bills. We were doing it all. And like Ravi, it wasn't until maybe the last 2 years that we really hired staff, HR, controller, regional operations folks. And so it was a big change to move from the West Coast to the Midwest. But we love the Midwest. And, even with Spark GHC and its creation, I will tell you that the 5 principals did 100% of the work for the first 18 months practically before we hired on an asset manager. And at the time, we were still running Spark Hotels. GHC partners were still running GHC. So we're all doing this in addition to our day jobs, right? So
Very, very cool. Yeah, I definitely see that, especially in the hotel community. The work ethic is through the roof. That's really what it is. When I started building up my business, it was just me doing 1,000 different jobs, and eventually it evolved into hiring a secretary and hiring somebody. Just hired a real high level associate a few months ago, and he's doing a lot of the work that I was doing that was eating up time that technically could be going out and meeting more Bhavishes and Ravis, you know what I mean? So very, very important to be able to delegate. We talked about last podcast a little bit about not micromanaging, because obviously when it's our baby, we want to make sure everything's being run right. And that's really the next question. And Bhavish and Ravi, you both take it away, whoever goes first. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it, that a successful company, a successful marriage, a successful sports team, it's really in any sort of category you want to put it into, is always run the best when everybody knows their job and they do the best that they can do at their job, right? So I think Ravi, you shared before that Mittal is very, very busy with operations, correct? And maybe you're more involved in financing and more involved in sourcing hotels. So how do you guys not step on each other's toes? How did you structure that to begin with? Because obviously you easily could have talents that overlap each other, right? You and Sagar Bhavish could be great at sourcing deals, right? So how do you guys really make sure that you're complementing each other at the same time, making sure that everybody's being useful to its fullest and not really wasting resources?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind going first. Early on, I came and started Opal first, and then Mithil joined me a few years later. We were kind of both of us doing a lot of the same stuff, but it was also a learning curve. So at that time, it worked because, hey, we both need to know every aspect of the business. But if we wanted to grow, then I think kind of like what Bhavish alluded to is one would have to focus on operations while the other can be on the road checking out new assets, right? And being able to find it, right? So at some point, I think it was maybe Hotel 5 or something like that, we sat down and we really bifurcated, what each of our responsibilities were going to be, right? And at that time, it was like, hey, Mithil, you're going to handle operations, which includes sales and revenue management and all that type of stuff right underneath it, while I'm going to do the new asset acquisition, financing, accounting, and so forth. So we both know exactly what we're responsible for. And now we've got to be able to trust the other guy to run with the rest of it. But we both learn and cut our teeth on the same properties before. So we know what it takes, what we want to see, what we want to do, right? So it makes it a lot easier to say, hey, you've got our blueprint, run with it. I've got the blueprint on my side, what I need to do, and I'll run with it. But all of that requires constant communication. I mean, daily, hourly, you've got to be updating each other because everything moves so fast. And, what I tell you today just changes 10 minutes later. And you're like, but you just told me this, but no, throw that all out the window. So constant communication, but really bifurcating responsibilities and then being able to trust your partner to be able to run with it. You really have to build that trust. because there's just not enough time in the day to micromanage everything. And I still sometimes get caught in it because, if I'm copied on an email or something, I can't help but put my 2 cents in. But sometimes I got to take a step back and just let the guys that are responsible for it roll with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is, Bhavesh, I want to hear your thoughts, but I want to add to it as well. With Ravi, the main partner is Mito. With you, you have three other partners. Somebody who has four partners, it's probably harder to make a decision on where to go out to eat than when you have one partner. So, sorry, three partners versus one partner. So, I'll give you a classic example. You bring a deal to the table, you source a deal, and you got to convince three of your partners why it's a good deal, right? So, how does that work? And especially, by the way, you for sure had scenarios and instances where some people, some of your partners probably like, hey, I have a bad feeling about this deal, and you're sold on it. Where do you go from there? I want you to approach the first part of the question, just in general. How do you work it out with your partners and not micromanage? But also, I would love to hear a little bit about this.
So I think the best thing about a partnership, whether it's between Amit and I and Spark Hotels or Spark GC and the four other partners, is that we all don't just agree on anything. It's probably the thing that makes us stronger as a company, because to get us all to be aligned takes a lot of work. And so when deals do come across our desk, so today we have somebody at VP of Acquisitions and Capital Markets. His job is to underwrite deals. And this year alone, he's probably underwritten 50 to 60, right? And so he boils them down before he brings them to us. And we have an investment committee that basically meets once a week to review an executive summary about a deal and decide, is this something we're going to bid on? Now, to Ravi's point earlier, we're in constant communication. I mean, we use Microsoft Teams, we use text messages, we use email, we're all over everything. But the business is so critical, and the speed at which we communicate and move, that we have to have the most effective communication to make sure that we stay on top of things. And so I will tell you, every day at 9 a.m., I have a call with my partners, and there is a different topic every day that is predetermined, whether it's based on acquisitions, operations, an all hands team call. We structure our days so that we are set on what the agenda is for the week, or based on that meeting, hey, we've got action items that keep us accountable for what we have to get done before the next time this meeting rolls around. So hopefully that helps.
No, that's great. And I love that structure. I want to get into the weeds for a second. So you bring a deal to the table and you're sold on it. You and Bobbin are sold on it. Sagar is skeptical, and Mike is he's not sure. I don't know. He's back and forth. So obviously it's very simple. The answer is just, hey, let's convince them why it's good. But when you become deadlocked, where do you go then? And the reason why I'm pressing you with this question is because you have four partners, and in a lot of companies, you don't have four partners. And I love what Spark's doing; it's truly special. But I would love to get into the dynamic of it.
I think what you'll find naturally is a couple of us are super bullish, some of us are super conservative, and we all have done research and have data points on why we should or should not do a deal. Project Scarlett is a great example of that. It's a $120 million acquisition that Bobbin was leading the charge on and was adamant that we are going to do this project. But he spent the time to convince us that, hey, we should do this deal. We did feasibility studies. We talked to the people in the city. So he brought us the data points that helped get us along. And that obviously is a much more complex deal, because it's an adaptive reuse of an existing building versus like an acquisition of an existing hotel, where those are a little bit more straightforward because we've done kind of sufficient amount of deals as the five of us, that typically we're split three against two or something like that, or 4 against 1. But I will tell you that when we vote on something, once we have voted and we vote and we try to get folks one way or another, we all believe we're gonna be successful no matter what. So if I was a naysayer on a project and we all agreed we're gonna do it, we do that project, and I will never turn my back on the project, right?
Got it. Wow. And Ravi, I love that, Bhavesh. And I definitely want to get to Project Scarlett at the end and tell us a little bit about it. Something that's just definitely super cool. Ravi, maybe fill us in a little bit as well. Obviously, I'm assuming you have ideas that cross the desk and Mittal's not into, or vice versa. How does that work out for you?
We actually have a larger investment committee than just me and
Oh, wow.
and so we do have individuals that we pull in on the back end or behind the scenes to run deals through. But again, just to keep us very accountable. Bhavesh has the luxury of having 3 to 4 other partners, and we do too behind the scenes. And we ping them to understand what they think about the deal, right? And for us, it's either unanimous or it's nothing. We don't go with a deal if not everybody's on board. And so, yeah, there have been circumstances where it's, 3 to 2, 2 to 3, whatever it is, mix. But hey, if all 4 or 5 of us aren't in on it, then we don't move forward with it.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I think you have to put these measures in. It's very easy to get emotionally tied into a project or an asset, and that's what we try to remove the emotion. It's all about numbers and where can we be the most successful. We have investors and we need to be accountable to making the best decision.
Understood. Most of your acquisitions, Ravi, have been off market or on market?
Mixture of both. I mean, but most I would say are on market.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
And Bhavesh?
I would say that most of us, when we first started, were off market. The last few deals have been on the market through a broker.
Beautiful. So let me ask you, both of you guys go to Hunter Conference and you both want to buy certain hotels in a certain demographic in Ohio, let's say. And whoever the broker there is, whether it's the Marcus team or whoever it may be, how does it work? Obviously, I've dealt with this in the multifamily world a lot. I'm curious if hotels are a little different. You guys have to go and butter up the brokers, because essentially, let's call a spade a spade. If you're both looking in the same market, you guys are technically competitors buying the same hotels, right? You want this broker to lean more towards you, right? And there's a lot of you guys. There's a lot of you guys buying a lot of hotels in similar markets, middle market hotels, cash flowing properties, Hampton Inns, Home 2 Suites, whatever it may be. How does that work out?
Yes, I think it comes over time. Like, you have to develop relationships with brokers, right? Early on, they didn't know who the hell I was, right? And some of them, I'd have to call them and just hope that nobody else is looking at this or it comes my way, right? But it worked out. But only once you've proven yourself to be a deal maker, that you will do what you're saying you're going to do. I think that means a lot, because there's a lot of guys just out there throwing in LIs and just to do it, and you remain respectable. I think that's very important to brokers, that, hey, then you can become their first call, right? Then you can be like, hey, look, this is going to go out to market, but I want to show you, or this is being confidentially listed. I want to show you because I know you can get the deal done. I know you're actively looking at this, but that only comes with time. Like, I don't think there's any shortcut to getting there. It's really showing them that you can do a deal, that you will execute based on what you promised, that you're not trying to retrade them and do all these other stuff that other people do, right? But I think that really just comes with time. And
and what you're saying is obviously so true, but how does it work essentially? Because a guy starting out, you started out, how do you get those first 3 under contract and closed?
Yeah, well, you got to find them off market. I think that's what Bhavesh is alluding to. Like, my first 3 deals were all off market. Yep. So really, maybe there was a broker, but it wasn't a true broker involved. It's just somebody telling you that, hey, this could be for sale, and they might get a little piece of the pie, but they were truly off market. And I think you're gonna have to source those types of deals, because it's a crowded marketplace, like you said. Everybody's fighting over the same assets.
Got it. Bhavesh, what's your take on the competitiveness?
I think the market is super competitive, but I think it comes down to, and Ravi hit the nail on the head. Are you and I'm going to use this term, respectable human being who isn't going to cut somebody else's throat just to make a dollar? This industry's super small, guys, and I work with Mito, like him and I text frequently about things in operations because I'm a little bit more on the operations side. And so like we brainstorm together. And honestly, I think we're actually willing to lend a hand more than I think the prior generation. And so like, listen, let's just use an example. Let's say there's a deal coming up and I asked Ravi and Mito, hey, you guys looking at this deal? And he said, yeah, we're looking at it. I'll back off. I'm not afraid to back off because listen, it's in his backyard. He knows the market better than I do. Fine, it's not a big deal. And maybe if I do want it, I'll say, hey, how about we partner on it if we're both into it. And that's I found as an industry and as a company, I'd rather do deals with good people because again, it's such a small world, right? Hospitality is such a small world and small space. We'll either back out, JV, or not do it, right? Like, or one of us will take the lead, right? And that's fine, right? And Ravi, again, also like on the point of the brokers, you just have to have really good relationships with them, and they have to know that you're going to execute, right, in whatever way that is. And there's definitely some potentially secret sauce in that we consider kind of the assurity of execution that we're going to get across the line, and you kind of end up with a reputation of, is this the company that does the deal, or these are guys that just look at 10 deals and pass on every one of them?
100%. I actually like that a lot as well, because as a broker, you want to get the deal done, right? You don't want to look like a fool to the seller. You want him to list with you again. So you don't bring some flake to the table. You want to bring a legit guy to the table. So building that credibility. I want to add on what you said before. I believe my few years that I've been involved in the hotel industry, and this is not bashing any other asset class, there's something special about the hotel industry, that there's a certain togetherness, a certain vibe, a certain friendship that a lot of people have with each other. In many other asset classes, it's huge, but technically small because everybody knows the big players. I feel like in the hotel world, that's tenfold. It's super small in a sense. Everybody knows each other. Ravi Patel from Hawkeye was on last episode, and he was talking about he was going through something rough with his business, whatever it was earlier on, and he went to one of the conferences, and he hit up Mitch, I think it was from Vision, and he's like, hey, we got to talk. And they sat down for like 3 hours. And like, obviously Mitch was busy, and he gave him time, and like he really walked him through different things. And I think there's something special, so a real authenticity. So I love what you said over there. If Robbie's looking at something and you'll back off, it's not as cutthroat as maybe some other industries may be. Definitely something cool. Let me ask you guys another conversation that's come up before, and I'd like to talk about for a few minutes, and then we'll near towards the end. Obviously, many things have changed over the past couple of years. Interest rates, and obviously that results in a whole different type of financing strategy today. So I think we're holding right now June 5th, 2025. What is the biggest challenge today or in the past couple of months that has come up that you're dealing with? I'm not talking about personally as a company. I'm talking about as an industry that you've had to pivot. What creative strategies are you guys implementing? Ravi, take it away.
From what I deal with on acquisitions and development, I mean, I think it's still financing from that perspective. What are we doing to combat that? We're really leaning into our regional contacts, trying to meet as many banks and finance companies as possible. We've looked at different solutions to be creative, whether it's private credit or bridge lending or so forth. But typically we are recourse regional bank borrowers, and we just really honed in on our relationships to make sure that, hey, before we go into an asset or go in, we feel very confident that one of our relationships can do it, or we can find a new relationship. We've relied on brokers also, finance brokers, which we didn't have to as much previously. So building that network of folks has also helped open up some new channels for us. So, some of those things we didn't really have to worry about 5 years ago. But today we have to go the spectrum and make sure we have relationships, contacts in each of those verticals so that we can pivot and tap on the right resource for that deal.
Right. And obviously in today's market, and this spans across all asset classes, it's harder to raise equity just for many, many reasons. People don't like what they're seeing. Tariffs. I have a client that was under contract in a big retail deal in the Midwest, and he's never ever had a problem raising equity. And some of his guys said their income was from importing stuff from China, and they're like, hey, we don't want to park our money. We don't know what's going to be. So have you seen a bigger challenge in that area as well, Ravi?
We're organized a little bit differently. We are a fund, so we've got our commitments already. So as we identify assets, we are just calling on our fund capital. But yeah, I mean, I think individual investors, one way or the other, are impacted by the current economy. I think 2024 was a good year for a lot of people in various industries, but 2025 is very choppy for everyone. So I think people are a little bit hesitant. People aren't seeing the same returns, basically, right? So they're like hesitant. Why should I double down on the industry? But honestly, I think this is a great buying opportunity. What we're seeing right now is some very good deals, lots of hotels on the market, but going at good basis. And I think being in this industry and going to be in it for a long time, that's what you have to think about is, can I get in at a good basis, and how will that play out in 5 years from now? So I think that's what we try to tell our investors is that, hey, we're not trying to flip this thing next year. We're going to be in it for a little while, and if we find some good buying opportunities, which I think that are out there, then now is the time to be putting more money into the market.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I like it. Bhavesh, what's your take on some recent challenges of what's going on and how have you guys pivoted? And then lastly, after we take care of that business, I want you to take 2 minutes and really fill us in on Project Scarlett.
Sure. There has been challenges in the debt world. And I'll take that angle for a second, and then I'll switch to a different angle. But on the debt side, we've used local community banks for our legacy businesses, and we have strong relationships in the market. I think over the last 6 months or so, we've started to use more debt brokers, and we've gotten into new lenders that we've never had before. And I think they've given us more options than some of our local regional brokers or community banks. We generally like to do non-recourse or some amount or limited amount of recourse with some burn down, just for scale purposes as we continue to grow. On the other side, where I've seen challenges, there's two other areas. One is tariffs and the impact to FF&E PIP renovations. And so our two most recent acquisitions that we're under contract for have very minimal PIPs. As a result, they're cash flowing assets, they're steady Eddie. So no major issues or impacts there. But I do agree with Ravi that we do not do a fund level raise. We raise equity deal by deal. And so investors are savvy and are asking really good questions about how the economy is affecting our underwriting, to which, I'll tell you guys, we do a base, bear, and bull case, and we present the base case, right? So that investors have a level of comfort that, hey, we can hit these numbers, right? We are seeing a little bit of impact from the economy in kind of sales numbers. I'm seeing that kind of across the board and across the portfolio. Like Q1 was tough, right? I think the future looks better, and to Ravi's point, your buy basis is the key to your success. And so we always think about that. We always think the buy price is so important. So if we can't get at the right price, we will generally pass.
I love that. And Bhavesh, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing with Project Scarlett. Obviously, we see it all over the news and LinkedIn, and fill us in.
It's all we talk about these days, I feel like. So Project Scarlett is a 400,000 square foot former office building in downtown Cleveland, gateway to Cleveland. Used to be the Medical Mutual of Ohio's office building since the 1950s. Our plan is to convert that building into a 123 key tribute boutique hotel, tribute branded, and a 154 branded residences, first of its kind, We will own and do 12-month leases on those. We're going to have a signature F&B restaurant, and we'll have about 20,000 square feet of commercial space as well in the building. I'm thinking we'll probably open in Q1, Q2 of 2027. We're currently working on debt for the building, and drawings are in process, and we'll probably start selective demo in like late Q3.
Wow, beautiful. And that doesn't take up your whole day?
We have built, Bobbin has built, I'll say Bobbin because we have clear lines of delineation. Bobbin has built an incredible team. Cleveland Construction, one of our partners, Corey Hospitality, who's going to be managing the asset, is on board. And we have several owners reps involved, kind of managing the real day-to-day with Vocon and Berardi, who are some of our architects, BHDM, interior designers, Marriott. So there are numerous calls. I'm on a couple a week where they need more kind of critical decisions made by the principals. But that project is in full swing at the moment. So we raised that project Q1 of this year, and we finished that raise. And we're on track. It's like I said, $120 million project. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. I look forward to giving you a tour.
Yeah.
For both of you guys, whether it's before, even now, I would come take a tour. It's beautiful. We just put up a Project Scarlett by Spark GHC sign on top of the building, and we've got things in the windows, just advertising for things that are going on in the city. We've got a phenomenal facilities operations manager, Keith Sona, who takes care of that building. It's his baby. He came with the building from Medical Mutual, and he knows that building inside out. We're really lucky. That is an incredible building in impeccable condition as well.
Wow.
So historic building.
Wow. Very, very cool. And it's not too long. We're talking a year and a half to worst case scenario, 2 years. So very, very exciting. Good stuff. Guys, this was awesome, but we're not done. Let's take a minute to give advice to a newbie investor, a new hotel guy starting out, which obviously there's always a next gen, new guys, what it really boils down to. So obviously we could talk about this for 5 hours each. If you would boil it down to a sentence or two, Ravi, what advice would you give?
The advice I give to any new entrepreneur is that I think you led the conversation with this, that you think this happens all overnight, and it doesn't. Really, you've got to put your time in, but you will see that as you do that, and people will recognize it, and that it will start to snowball, right? And the momentum you'll build, you won't feel it in the first year, might not feel it in the second year, but it starts multiplying thereafter. So start with learning everything you can about the industry, working in a hotel, learning it from A to Z, because that's what we did. It won't go unrecognized. There's a lot of things you can do with this industry. You can continue to own, manage hotels. You don't have to manage. You don't have to develop. You can acquire. You can go the tech route. You can do whatever. There's a lot of opportunities that'll open up. But just stay true, steady to it. And I swear that in time, things will just really multiply for you. And here we are 10 years later, and it just feels like I started yesterday.
Wow. Love that. Bhavesh, a sentence or two to a new hotel owner or wanting to buy a hotel.
I will focus a little bit more on operations. I'll tell you that the culture of your organization and your hotel is completely what drives it and can drive your success. We focus on the types of people we hire and surround ourselves with. And when those people feel empowered and they understand they're in charge of making what the goals are and taking care of the guests, that they are ready to really take things to the next level. And so many of our associates have been with us for a decade, because they understand the kind of power that they have. And for us as owners, it's not about the guests, it's about our associates, right? If we take care of our associates will take care of the guest. And when you do that, those guests will keep coming back. And that's what makes our hotels run. Those are the fundamentals that I would tell any new entrepreneur getting into this space is focus on the fundamentals, and then the rest will come. You can do the rest.
I love that. Great messages by both guys. This was awesome. Really, really great. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited for the audience to hear this. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Stage Debate podcast with Cossack Isaac. This was a phenomenal episode. Such great conversations on what really goes on a day-to-day basis with Bhavesh and Ravi. Extremely grateful, Ravi and Bhavesh, for coming on. Thank you to the audience for listening. Stay tuned for future episode drops. We're really making it on all platforms. A lot of listeners, which is just tremendous. Apple, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify. Stay tuned for future episode drops. We have a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. Reach out to me if I can help you with any cost segregation help and really teach you how to leverage it. And see you on the next pod.